Welcome to the Block Exploring Podcast, your first step into the world of crypto and blockchain. The Block Exploring Podcast is your one-stop place to find quick, clear, and unbiased information on everything in the crypto space. Our goal is to help you grow familiar with the crypto space by growing along with us as we go on our crypto journeys. Follow @Block Exploring on Twitter for our newest uploads and our publishing schedule. We, here at Block Exploring, are crypto enthusiasts working hard towards becoming experts. Today's podcast is presented by co-hosts Tommy and Elias. Find us on Twitter under @SabaiSquared and @OtokoCrypto. Right now you can find us on Spotify and YouTube. Before we start the episode, we would like to inform you that we are not financial advisors. Therefore, nothing said in this podcast should be considered financial advice. Always contact your financial advisor before making any investment. With that said, sit back and enjoy today's podcast. What's up, Block Explorers? Welcome to Byte Sized episode 2. Today we'll be talking about proof of work versus proof of stake. Let's just jump right into it. Both are consensus mechanisms. These are ways that cryptocurrencies validate information. The nodes agree amongst each other and how blocks are added to the blockchain, and this is done by creating updates to the ledgers. Now, this is different from traditional banking since the distributed ledger system isn't centralized, meaning that not all information is stored in one place, making it way more secure against common security issues that you can find in centralized banking ledgers, where one specific system can be hacked and all the information can be leaked, or minor alterations cannot be controlled against. So
proof of work consensus mechanism is used by networks and cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, ETH prior to its hard fork, and Doge, and a lot of others use proof of work as well. And it basically entails a decentralized consensus mechanism that requires members of the network, known as nodes, to expend a sufficient amount of energy in order to solve a mathematical puzzle, in order to prevent anyone from gaming the system, and this process is known as mining. And Satoshi Nakamoto didn't actually invent proof of work, but this concept was pioneered in a 1993 journal article, and the term was coined in a 1999 in a paper by Marco Jacobson and Ari Jules. And miners in this consensus mechanisms are the nodes.
Yes, and in a proof of stake mechanism, liquidity is locked in order to validate transactions. This is a prime example of this right now is Ethereum. After the hard fork, Cardano, VeChain, Cake from PancakeSwap. And this was proposed in 2011 as a more energy efficient mechanism, since you don't have to actively run a computer per se that solves equations. You can just stake the liquidity and through this validate transactions. Now, liquidity providers are those who lock up their liquidity. This can be done in two ways, either for a set amount of time or indefinitely. Well, a set amount of time structure is seen in Ethereum. An indefinite structure is seen in ADA, where stakers can just use their Cardano or just unstake whenever they wish. Now, these liquidity stakers, those are the nodes in a proof of stake consensus mechanism.
Okay, and how does a proof of stake node validate? Well, proof of stake algorithms achieve consensus by requiring users to stake an amount of their tokens, so as to have a chance of being selected to validate blocks of transactions and get rewarded for doing so.
Yes, and the higher the percentage of the liquidity the staker has, and this is the total liquidity, the higher the chance that they will be the chosen one to validate the block. And the individual staker that validates the block is rewarded for approving this info if it is correct. If the info is incorrect, and so a fraudulent statement is approved, the staker is punished by losing part of their staked capital. If they don't keep true to this, they will lose more money than they stake. So if they approve fraudulent info, the information is wrong, they will lose more money than they will make by creating this fraudulent ledger. And this mechanism holds up as long as the total liquidity being staked is larger than the sum of all transaction fees. In other words, you can only validate as many transactions as the number of coins you have in your wallet.
Yeah, so for instance, if a miner has 10% of the total number of coins on the blockchain, he or she can validate and earn rewards for only 10% of the transactions. But depending on the blockchain's requirements, a miner must have a minimum amount of coins in their bound wallet to be able to qualify as a node. First, the proof of stake method has significantly reduced the need for highly complicated machinery, which was required for mining under the proof of work consensus algorithm. Because in a proof of work consensus algorithm, like I said before, you need to expend a certain amount of energy to actually produce and validate a block. And consequently, it has made the entire process of mining much more accessible. This is proof of stake now, as well as much cheaper.
Yes, that's true. And then secondly, by making use of the number of coins as being the determining principle for the mining capacity, the proof of stake algorithm has simplified the mining process. And additionally to this, since the proof of stake method isn't hardware dependent and doesn't involve appendages like ASICs, it has minimized the risk of depreciation of the investment made in the system. Presently, the only way in which value of the initial investment may be reduced is by fluctuation in the trading rate, so the value of, for instance, your ETH.
Mhm. And there has been massive reductions in the overall power consumption of the process, leading to obvious environmental benefits. As many of you might have seen, there's been a lot of outcry over the energy consumption of a proof of work system. And the proof of stake system, furthermore, provides a major relief to the traders in the cryptocurrency market from the ever increasing rise of the 51% attacks under proof of work framework.
Yes. And now moving on to the rewards from both systems. Now we'll compare proof of work versus proof of stake rewards and the way that they are distributed in effect. In a proof of work system, it kind of goes exponential. So the better your computer setup, the better your GPU, the better your capacity, the larger the part of the mining process you will take. So if you have an insane processing power, the odds are very high that you will guess the equation for validating a transaction or creating a new block. The odds of this are way higher since a person with a way worse computer than you might not have the same capacity.
Yeah, so in a proof of stake mechanism, the rewards are more linearly distributed. So the more you put in, the more you're able to earn, like we said before. And it's definitely a much more fairer distribution of the rewards across the board. And the key here is to include a degree of chance to the selection process so as to avoid a scenario where the richest users are always selected to validate transactions consistently and reap the rewards as such and grow richer and richer as a result. And so in a randomized block selection situation, forgers are selected by looking for users with a combination of lowest hash value and highest stakes. The coin age selection method chooses validators based on how long their tokens have been staked for. And these are two different ways that validators can be picked in a proof of stake system.
Exactly. And I think this kind of concludes the major differentiations between proof of work and proof of stake. And that was the conclusion of today's bite-sized episode. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.